Let me see if I can pull it up and I can sneak peek a few different ones. It was insanely confusing. As far as what the team looks like these days, it is, and he just like came up with the entire concept, and it's just brilliant. That's a tough one. Oh, wow.
In the ever-competitive world of platform fighting games, Fraymakers has long stood out from the crowd with its wide cast of brilliant indie fighters. But its latest edition might be the biggest yet, as we've gotten the Impostor from Among Us as a fully fledged character. The Impostor is arguably the most popular new Fraymakers character since Fish Bungeon was added to the game, with a really cool suspicion meter which makes them unlike any other character, including other fighting games. So today we're joined by Max Silverman, lead game designer on Fraymakers, to talk about how the iconic Among Us Impostor made the jump into the fray. We'll find out what went into translating its unique mechanics into a competitive moveset, and we'll get some exclusive insights into Fraymakers' development. Without further ado, let's jump straight into the interview.
I'm involved in every aspect of development except for art. Art is the one thing that I have absolutely no ability to do, and luckily we have some amazing artists and animators on our team who can take care of me there, which is fun sometimes, but also sometimes it's like I feel like I'm getting pulled in a bunch of different directions, especially as we're leading up to a big character reveal. It's like, okay, I really need to focus in on getting this trailer done. It can be hard to like also, we need to do, I don't know, some balance tweak or something like that to the character before it comes out.
What has the reception to Impostor been like?
I mean, it's been extremely positive. We went into it knowing, because we read the community comments and stuff, and especially for this one, since we had announced that it was going to be a assist upgrade beforehand, it had basically been narrowed down to a handful of ones, and people were talking about like what they thought all those characters, like how well we think their moveset would work out. And we definitely saw, like, as far as the Imposter goes as a character concept, or I guess crewmate at that point, because it wasn't clear which way it was going, there was definitely some skepticism as far as making a cohesive moveset with the character, which is understandable because it's kind of a weird one. And I don't really look up movesets beforehand, but I looked at some of the Smash Brothers like mod movesets or the fan-made movesets and stuff, and I don't think that they had. I think what really made ours work is we found a way to have a centralizing mechanic that brings all these disparate elements together, which I'm pretty proud of. That one took a lot of gameplay testing on the back end. Like we had all sorts of different iterations. Like we had a version of the character without the meter. That's where we started, and we had done some different testing with like how the meter could work and what the punishment is and how big the meter is. This was a pretty iteration heavy type of character. We had versions of it where, you know how when you use a move, like if you're at max imposter meter, right, you use a move, the move still comes out, and then after that you get the ejection. We had versions where it's like it would eject you as soon as you tried to use the move, which kind of makes sense, but it was insanely confusing. That was one of the issues with this concept, is like we want to make sure that it's instantly understandable. Like when you're playing the character, you understand. I mean, that's why it says suspicion on the meter. We tried some that didn't have the text on there, but it just kind of made it too unclear what the concept was. So we felt like if we nailed down this concept and people could understand what we're going for and get the theming and intuitively make sense of it while they're playing, that people would like the character a lot. And that's exactly what's happened. So I'm really happy with it. Like all of the skepticism seems to have been washed away. I mean, once you had the initial reaction of people being like, oh, it should have been insert character here instead, which understandable. Again, we narrowed it down pretty far, so I get it. But I think that people are pretty happy with how the character turned out, and that we could not be more happy with it. Also, it seems to have done pretty well. Like even people who aren't currently in the Fraymakers community have seemed to take into it pretty well. Like just general Among Us or video game fans seem to think that we did a pretty good job adapting the character into a platform fighter environment. So pretty happy. Like could not be happier with how the reception turned out for any of us on the team.
I think Imposter's awesome. Like,
yeah,
you guys did it perfectly. Like, I couldn't imagine a better way to have done it. So,
yeah.
Really good job.
It's also just, it's a super fun character to work on. It's like a little bean. So how, like, that's another thing we iterated on a lot. Like, how far do we push, like, doing expressions on the character? I mean, it is a little bean, but it's like, it needs to feel like the character, right? And in the source game, there's not very much detail. There's not very much like crazy expressiveness, like not super pushed. We do have some versions where we tried pushing the expressions on the character a little further, and it just made it not look like the character anymore. So finding that balance where we still get like, we like our characters to be really expressive. We put that in all of our different animations. You can see it pretty much across the cast. But this was definitely one where it's like the challenge of finding like, can it feel exactly like the character while also having expressions and stuff like that. And I think that's another thing that we nailed pretty hard. This is me just bragging about my animators because this was not anything I was really involved with. But I think they did a really good job finding that balance, and it just feels so Among Us when you're playing it.
So obviously there was a lot of other potential characters which could have been chosen.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys choose Imposter just because of the poll results, or was there another process that went into it?
It wasn't just because of the poll results. I mean, that did help us. Obviously, like, everybody's paid attention. Like, everybody in the community has a decent idea of like which assists did pretty well on the poll results. So you can narrow it down yourself there and know like if we were considering just off of that what we would be considering there. But I think it was just a character. We thought we had a good idea for how the character could work in Fraymakers, and we had a really solid concept for a unique mechanic and just a unique feel for the character that is not available in any other platform fighter, at least to the best of our knowledge. There's like some similar-ish things, but I think the idea of a suspicion meter and having it based on different moves in the moveset is really fun and really thematic, and you can't get it anywhere else, which is usually what we're looking for our characters. Like, we try to bring something that's not only just new to Fraymakers, but new to the platform fighter genre. And it could be something big or something small. It doesn't have to be like a character spanning mechanic like the Imposters is. But especially because we don't have 80 characters or whatever Ultimate has these days, we want to make sure that every single character is like a unique selling point for the game. So we don't want to have just Fox McCloud or whatever in Fraymakers, or insert other generic thing here. So it was a combination of the poll results and our gameplay concept, and also just we're pretty personally passionate about the characters. We just like the little crewmates a lot. I'm sure it'll show up in the Fraymakers tome at some point, but even before we knew they were going to be a character, we have just like a bunch of random sketches of the crewmate and imposter characters, just like, oh, here's a stage concept, and Ramsey would just like draw a little imposter on it, even though it's like, this isn't even a playable character. This is like 2020 or something like that. So we were not even considering it at that point, but it's just a lot of fun. We like the character a lot, and it turned out to be really fun to work on. Hopefully people can understand there's more characters that we would like to add than we're ever going to have time to. Like, in an ideal world, we would have 100 characters in the game, probably. I mean, I don't know, maybe that's excessive. But there's a bunch of really cool indie characters. Like, these are all games that we're super passionate about, so it's really like picking out a bunch of different qualities that we think would make a good character, and also that would be fun for us to work on, and finding the character that matches all of those criteria.
Can you tell me a bit more about how you designed the Imposter? Sort of, were there any moves that you had to cut because you couldn't make them work properly?
We have some. I was actually looking back through, because it's always fun when we actually release a character to just like scroll through all of our development chats and see like, what were we talking about? Like, what other stuff did we go through at this point? We were considering posting some of those. I think technically we would have to get approval from the IP holder, so maybe to be continued on that one. As far as posting the actual assets though. But as you might expect for a character like this, where all of the moves are themed after something pretty specific, there was a bunch of different concepts we were considering. Let me see if I can pull it up and I can sneak peek a few different ones. There was a dash attack concept that used the imposter dagger, and it was really cool. It was like a big like lunge forward and stab into the ground. It felt awesome, but unfortunately that's an obvious one why that doesn't work, because the character concept kind of needs to be restricted with which moves are imposter moves and which ones are crewmate moves. So like we wanted all like the normal non-strong, non-special attacks to be crewmatey, which is a shame. I think this one was a little bit earlier in development before we had like nailed down exactly which moves were which, but that one ended up getting switched out. I really like the one we ended up with. I think the paper one is really funny, and I like the reference. But that's one where it's like, man, that's just I'm looking at the animation right now. It's like, wow, that's a pretty dang cool looking move. And for a lot of our other ones, we had like switched out different animations with different concepts. We had like what ended up being forward air was we tried that on up air as well, where it was like a connection above the imposter's head. We had ones where like, oh, we also had an up tilt that's fixed wiring, which I think we ended up on down tilt because it just made a little bit more sense because you're working out of the things on the ground. Maybe these both existed simultaneously and we just decided to represent a different task with up tilt to get more rep in. I don't remember if these were like one and then we moved it to the other, or if we had down tilt and up tilt, but it was one where you like reach down and then fix the wiring above the head, and it was like a sparky multi-hit up there, which was also kind of fun. Yeah, there's a bunch of those in there. This, like I said, is one of our more iteration-heavy characters, so if we ever do end up posting these, you'll see a bunch of rando concepts for different things in different spots.
So for the entire character, what would you say your favorite move or animation is?
Oh my god.
I know, I'm sorry.
That's a tough one. Oh, wow.
You can have multiple, you can have multiple.
Yeah. Well, I really like the windscreen. I mean, and it's hard to not be biased towards the windscreen animations because they're like, that's the big fancy one. So of course it's like, that's not a fair comparison to the in-game ones where it has got like this camera rotation thing going on. But I think that one turned out really well. I really like Down Strong. I just think that that move feels really cool. And I think it's just like a great execution on the concept. And I don't know, I go for it way too much in game because I think it feels awesome, especially like the secret back hitbox. Anybody know about that one where it hits upward? I think it's just really fun to hit with, but I think a lot of that comes down to like how well animated it is. I like his throws a lot. I'm pretty proud of what we ended up with for those concepts. That was another one where we had a few different ideas we were throwing around with for throws because there's nothing like off the top of your head. There's nothing super intuitive, especially because they had to be crewmate themed moves. Like if you think to Among Us, the only throw-ish action really is very obviously imposter. It's in like the kill move, the gun kill move, right? Which we can't have the throws be imposter moves because of the concept of the character. But I think the way that we came up with where it's like using the tasks that mostly the ones with terminals and stuff like that, and it moves them around. And I think those just like feel awesome to use and are also super thematic. Oh, and also jab combo. Jab combo goes hard. That was one, I'm pretty sure that was another CT animation, and he just like came up with the entire concept, and it's just brilliant. I love how he gets more and more mad as he continues to swipe, as they continue to swipe the card. And I don't know, everybody, that's the one where it's like, I'm showing somebody the character who doesn't really know platform fighters, but they're no Among Us. It's like, okay, I'll show you this and you'll understand kind of what we're going for with this character, right?
Ooh, so you've listed the entire character there.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I agree.
I think we did a good job. What could I say? Yeah, I mean, the ones I didn't name, I also think are good. I you know, we take a lot of time on our characters. We're really meticulous about it. We don't ship any animations that even one of us isn't happy with, as far as I'm aware. So there's not going to be any in there where I'm like, oh, I wish we had done something else, because we probably just would have.
How many people worked on Impostor? I assume it's the entire team, but then how is the team looking these days?
I think for every character, everybody in the team would touch it at some point. Definitely all of the art and animation team will touch every character, including both our internal animators. We've talked about it before, but just as a catch-up for people who don't know our process, our two core team animators do all of the animation. We recently posted on our social media stuff like a behind the scenes for how an animation goes for the imposter's windscreen, but all of our animations are similar, where we do rough sketches, then we import them for a little bit of gameplay testing, and then we do clean sketches before handing those off to a contracted pixel artist who does pixel outlines and then coloring and then shading on top of it for the finalized art. So our internal animators, both of them have done a bunch of imposter animations. Like they're, I don't know if it's exactly 50-50, but both of them were basically working on exclusively imposter for a little bit there. And then I believe all of our contracted animators would have done some imposter as well. As far as programming side goes, we will typically have like 1 or 2 programmers who are more in the imposter weeds, but they, if there's some bug that needs to be fixed, it could also be assigned to pretty much anybody. I would have to look back through to see exactly who's working on it, but typically that's it works a little bit better to have that assigned out to one specific person who's like the primary on the character, because they get really familiar with it. Especially because we keep adding these characters with all these complicated mechanics, and it's like I go in there and it's like, oh my god, I have to learn, like, this is some crazy stuff going on in here. I have to figure everything out when I make my way in. Long way of saying, yeah, pretty much everybody works on a character aside from maybe like a handful of programmers or something like that. And also our stage artists and musicians would not be, well, musicians are making songs for the characters, so I guess that counts too. As far as what the team looks like these days, it is pretty similar. It has been pretty similar for the last little bit. So we have 5 core team members. We have 3 contracted programmers, 3 contracted character artists, 1 contracted stage artist, and 3 musical groups. And then those are like the more like all the time ones, and then we'll bring in like Justin Chan to do our key art and stuff when we do updates to that with new characters and stuff.
Thank you so much for watching. I've got some more clips from the interview coming up soon, so keep an eye out for those and make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you in the next one.